Coming up on Tech News Today, China unblocks Facebook, Twitter, and the New York Times, why Fairfax wants to buy Blackberry, and teens can delete embarrassing pictures. It's the law in California, maybe. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, September 24th, 2013. Tech News Today is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. For a free trial and 20% off, go to squarespace.com and use offer code TNT9. And by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your used gadgets. Find out what your used iPhone, iPad, and other Apple products and smartphones are worth at gazelle.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Aya Zakhtar.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And the fates are just conspiring against Sarah Lane. Yesterday it was traffic. Today her internet went down. So we don't think we're going to get her unless they show up and fix the internet for her shortly. But still, we have a great guest in Ewan Rankin coming up and the top 10 stories of the day in the News Fuse. China is opening a free trade zone next week in Shanghai, and according to the South China Post, internet service within the zone will be free of the usual Chinese blocks. Sites like Twitter, Facebook, the New York Times will all be freely accessible, unlike in the rest of China. Microsoft will take advantage of the zone to partner with Best TV New Media on a joint venture to produce video games for the Chinese market. China banned game consoles in 2000 in order to protect youths from their corrupting influence.
Didn't know that. Yesterday, insurance and investment company Fairfax Financial Holdings offered $4.7 billion to take Blackberry private. Fairfax already owned 10% of Blackberry. The Blackberry board did sign a letter of intent to accept Fairfax's offer, but a deal is far from done. Now, the letter lets Blackberry shop itself around for 6 weeks as Fairfax inspects Blackberry's books. If the deal falls through, Blackberry will owe Fairfax a sum ranging from $157 million to $262 million, depending on the stage of the deal.
Those of you disappointed that Apple didn't announce new iMacs last week can stop being disappointed. Apple just released new iMacs, albeit with some minor updates. The new specs feature 2.7 gigahertz Core i5 processors, Intel's Iris Pro GPU. Other options can get you up to 3.4 gigahertz Core i5 Haswell chip and NVIDIA GeForce 700 GPU. 8 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte drives are now standard, and you can max that out to 3 terabyte Fusion drives and 32 gigabytes of RAM. The new lines are available today, and base configurations range from $1,299 to $1,999.
The latest version of Google's Android Device Manager lets users remotely lock their device. The feature requires your Android device to be attached to some kind of network, but assuming that's true, you'd be able to go to Android Device Manager on the web and remotely lock down your device.
Google's trying to get rid of the legacy Netscape plugin architecture from Chrome. Starting in January 2014, all but a short white list of commonly used plugins like Silverlight, Facebook Video, Google Earth will be blocked from the Netscape plugin. So those won't be blocked, but everything else will. Users can whitelist their own plugins, but Google expects to end Netscape plugin support entirely by the end of 2014. Google also will stop accepting applications in the Chrome Web Store that support the Netscape plugin API starting today. They'll be delisting them in May, and they'll unpublish them entirely in September.
Sarah, you're a cord cutter and not here, but you'd be interested in this next story. Apple just re-released Apple TV version 6.0 software, which brings iTunes Radio and a number of new features. Apple originally released 6.0 on Friday, but the update kind of bricked other devices or bricked the Apple TVs. So The Verge says right now, so far, the update seems to be bug-free.
Keep your fingers crossed. BlackBerry Messenger for iOS and Android is going to take a little longer to arrive. BlackBerry Messenger Executive VP Andrew Brocking wrote in a post Monday night that the leak of an unreleased BBM for Android app has a glitch that causes a traffic spike, and BlackBerry will hold off releasing the new apps until it can completely block the leaked version and reinforce its system to handle any future traffic spikes.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration released guidelines on how it will regulate health-related smartphone apps and accessories. The FDA will oversee apps that are intended to be used as an accessory to a regulated medical device and apps that transform a mobile platform into a regulated medical device. The FDA assures the public that the agency will not regulate the sale or use of tablets or smartphones, nor will it regulate app stores.
The Street reports Twitter has decided to list its stock on the New York Stock Exchange rather than the more common home for tech stocks, the NASDAQ. The Street sources say Twitter will sell between 50 and 55 million shares for $28 to $30 a share, putting the company's valuation at around $15 to $16 billion US. The NASDAQ has suffered several technical issues over the past few months and paid $10 million to the SEC over the problems with the Facebook IPO.
Samsung unveiled a new component for smartphone cameras called ISOCell. ISOCell should make low-light pictures better since it increases light sensitivity, as well as allow for more accurate color reproduction. Samsung says the move to ISOCell will allow it to create devices that can capture high-resolution images and still be small enough to fit into a mobile device without affecting the design.
This episode of Tech News Today brought to you by Squarespace. You know I like Squarespace. I use it for a bunch of my sites. It's an all-in-one platform, makes it easy to create a professional website. I want to put my new book. I know I go on about Merit Books, but we use it for Squares. We use it for Sword and Laser all the time as well. But we want to enough about my web. We want to see what you guys are doing on Squarespace. Send a tweet with a link to your Squarespace website to hashtag #TwitSquarespace. We're going to take a look at those sites. We might even choose your Squarespace site to mention on a future episode, and you guys can go look at them. Just do a search for that hashtag #TwitSquarespace. Of course, Squarespace, if you don't know, they're constantly improving their platform. They have beautiful designs, award-winning designs. Your website could have an award-winning design if you power it with Squarespace. Easy to use. And even if you have a question, their support team's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're constantly improving that support, which is hard to do because it's pretty darn good to begin with. But they're always working on it. They're always trying to improve. It starts at just $8 a month, includes a free domain name if you sign up for a year. It's mobile ready, search engine optimized, and the hosting's included. Squarespace takes care of that hosting. You can do it yourself, but why? When Squarespace will carry buckets of water up flights of stairs after a hurricane to keep your site online. That's a true story, actually. Start a trial with no credit card required and start building your website. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure to use the offer code TNT9 to get 20% off and to show your support for Tech News Today. We thank Squarespace for their support of Tech News Today. Squarespace, everything you need to create an exceptional website. Well, let's gather around the old square table, round table. Maybe Squarespace wants us to make it a square table. I don't know. But it's not even a real table because Ewan Rankin is joining us all the way from merry old England and the British Tech Network. How's it going, Ewan?
Le Homa. I'm practicing my Chinese because apparently that's the place to be now. If we can broadcast in Chinese, I'm in.
Ni hao. Wait, that's Japanese. Shay Shay? Is that Chinese?
Oh hum ho.
Yeah, I'm really bad.
Wait, no.
Xiaomei.
That's a
Xiaomei, some more Xiaomei, please. All right, enough of that before we really get ourselves in trouble. Facebook gonna be available if you're in Shanghai, the free trade zone. Various reports, some say they're gonna open that free trade zone on Monday, September 29th. Others say October 1st. Whenever they open it, it's going to be a test bed. Things like currency convertibility, liberalized interest rates, foreign direct investment and taxation. This is China saying, well, let's see what happens if we play by the rules of the West in a small part. Can we get some of that Western money? Can we get some of those companies to come over? South China Post says as part of that, they want to open up the internet there, unblock things like Facebook and Twitter. Here's the quote from that South China Post source, anonymous source in the Chinese government. Want people to feel like they're at home. Here it is. If they can't get onto Facebook or read the New York Times, they may naturally wonder how special the free trade zone is compared with the rest of China. And of course, we mentioned in the news fuse, Microsoft and Best TV new media company teaming up to bring video game sales to China for the first time from a Western company in a long time. Foreign-funded companies will be allowed to make and sell game and amusement devices inside the Shanghai Free Trade Zone after passing a content inspection. So they still have to play by some more restrictive rules than they might in some other countries. Ewan, what do you make of this little nest of Western capitalism they're constructing inside of Shanghai?
I think Ewan's trying to reconstruct his connection to Skype, so I'll pretend to answer that.
Yes, Ewan Akhtar.
That would be me. Disregard the lower third. I'm really intrigued by what kind of growth this is going to lead for Facebook. If it's just limited to Shanghai, that's still a lot of people. And constantly, I know I asked the question on this show, how can Facebook continue to grow when they are blocked out of certain places like China? If this kind of access is popular in that area, I don't know if China will eventually just let it go and let Facebook enter fully. But then again, the Chinese government's been very, very, influential on how exactly these companies like to do business in China. So just seems like a really interesting first step to see China opening up a bit to something like Facebook.
Yeah, and you and I called Ayaz Ewan, so I'll call you Ayaz, but it doesn't matter. What do you think of this little experiment?
The chat room's just floored me because we were talking about Downton Abbey and they put Wonton Abbey for the Chinese version. I think it's a fantastic thing that China's opening up a little bit. How long-lived it is and how thorough it is or opportunistic it is, I think it remains to be seen. But if the rumours are true, then good on them. One of the things I think that goes on in the background, particularly from the US State Department and from the UK, is about openness and about letting the general populace have more human rights. And surely one of those is the ability to communicate with the outside world.
That is definitely the positive side of this. I guess the naysayers would probably say not everyone inside Shanghai is going to get unblocked. It's probably only going to be the companies. And the other downside to this possibly is it could be a vector for surveillance. In other words, how am I going to spy on the businessmen from the West that exist inside the Shanghai Free Trade Zone if I don't allow them to communicate over Facebook and I force them to use Tor? You don't want that. You want to make it easier to surveil. I imagine there is some truth to those things, but you and I pretty much agree with you, which is this is China saying more about money than it is about intelligence gathering. I don't think it's going to have a widespread effect now on China, but it might down the road.
I think it depends when the first thing comes along that's anti-China, that's anti-government, that's an anti-story that gets posted and gets circulated. Then you could see whether the teeth are really white or whether they're really yellow. It's I'm cautiously optimistic.
It's a trap, or maybe
no. I can't sleep tonight.
Facebook may be getting unblocked in Shanghai, but they're also trying to make it easier for you to buy stuff, Ayaz.
Yeah, according to All Things D, Facebook right now has been testing a feature with a handful of retail partners that allows customers to automatically enter their payment information into mobile devices via their Facebook accounts. The feature is called autofill with Facebook. And if you've stored your credit card and address information on Facebook, retail apps in this pilot program will have a little displayed drop-down. It'll say you can just hit this button, and then Facebook will autofill your credit card and address information so you can buy things on Facebook a lot easier. Right now, the partner program is really, really small. It's Jack Threads and Mosaic. And this seems like a really small feature to have a credit card information tied to Facebook. But do you think Facebook's will be tying their information just for this kind of feature?
I'm more scared of Facebook than I am of China.
They're arguably more powerful in some ways.
The thought of handing an autofill over to Facebook just fills me with dread, especially when it comes to credit card information stuff. I mean, I'm always really cautious. I've got separate passwords for financial stuff compared to the stuff that I really don't care about. It's kind of like 3 tiers of password with me. And the thought of buying anything through Facebook, I've done a couple of promo upgrades of posts and things like that. But generally, I tend to stay away from Facebook because unless it's something that's outward-facing for me that I want other people to see, I don't really engage with a lot of people there. The thought of Facebook controlling my credit card details, they're a good organisation, I'm sure, at heart, and they've got very good protocols in place, but an autofill process is a bit different. I just don't sit easy with it, I have to say.
I want to set aside for a moment the idea that most people who use Facebook probably will welcome something like this, because I'm like you, and I look at this and my first impulse is, well, I've got LastPass. Why would I need this? LastPass can autofill anything, but here's where it gets clever. Facebook isn't doing this on your side. That's one of the problems. They're doing it on the merchant's side, which means they can do it in places where LastPass isn't allowed to work the way it's supposed to. For instance, on my phone, I have to launch the LastPass app if I want to be able to auto-populate fields with LastPass and use its browser. If I'm using Chrome or some other browser on my mobile device, it's not going to auto-populate. But with Facebook, it will, because Facebook's giving that directly to the merchant. And it's a kind of convenience that is positive. It's just a matter of whether you trust Facebook to handle that information for you and make sure they only give it to the merchants you want them to give it to, and that those merchants are trustworthy.
Cell phone payment at the moment is a bit of the Wild West, isn't it? I mean, you look at the way that the iPhone Pass system works versus NFC that's equipped with that, and whether your phone is an actual credit card in inverted commas or not. So if what you're saying there is what it's going to do for me, I'm a little bit more optimistic, I have to say, because it does need some kind of regulatory control back directly to the retailer.
In the mobile space, it seems interesting as well, because Facebook famously for the longest time didn't make any money on mobile. They put in advertising, so they're making a lot of money there. If they could find another revenue stream coming in from people clicking and buying things through Facebook sponsored posts or advertisements that you can easily buy things. Like right now I'm looking at Facebook. I don't know if I would buy any of the things in the sponsored list here, like furniture. Like that's not exactly an impulse kind of buy thing. But since Facebook's gathering all this data about you, if they can have the really great targeted ads and they have your credit card information right there, you're buying stuff really easily, and that could lead to a lot of money for Facebook.
And ease of purchase as well. I mean, if you're talking about a single click towards...
Yeah, just as long as you're signed into Facebook, all you got to do is say, yeah, that's fine. Take my money, please. I don't get me wrong. I'm all for that. I just want it to be secure. And there are trade-offs always between convenience and security. But I feel like there's a better way to do it, or maybe a better company to do it. But you're always, to get that kind of convenience, probably going to have to give some information to somebody in the cloud and on the merchant side that you aren't in direct control of, perhaps.
I mean, a lot of us learn to trust Amazon and Apple with our credit card information. That's always in there. You can buy music or buy pretty much anything you want with one click on Amazon. So if Facebook can establish a great track record, it would explain why this pilot program is so small, to see if they can figure out any of the bugs before taking this much larger. Because when it comes to money, if there is some kind of security breach, Facebook's in a world of trouble. Privacy things is one concern. A lot of people have that issue of things being too private. Once your credit card information goes public, people get angry.
Yeah, absolutely. Blackberry shareholders may be getting angry, depending on what's going on. I want to run this by you. I want to run this by you guys. Letter of intent signed by Fairfax Financial Holdings. We mentioned this briefly because it broke during the show yesterday. Offering $9 a share, $4.7 billion total. And there's three reactions to this news today. One is that Fairfax is trying to drive up the price because Fairfax holds 10% of BlackBerry shares. V. Prem Watsa, Fairfax's chairman and chief executive, said in March to his shareholders he paid $17 a share. So they may be wanting to drive that price back up at least towards $17 a share and minimize their losses. BlackBerry in this deal has 6 weeks to take other offers. Now, they do have to pay $157 million to Fairfax if they take one of those other offers, but that could easily be covered in the price if they get $4.7 billion, add $157 million, not that big of a deal. Fairfax can also lower their offer by the end of this deal. So there's not a lot of commitment here. There's just a signal of intent, which could be meant to just say like, okay, any other offers? Any other offers on the table? A lot of people suspect that really what Fairfax wants to do is sell it for parts. $2 billion in patents that BlackBerry has, $2.6 billion in cash. Well, right there, you've almost made your $4.7 billion back just by splitting up BlackBerry and selling it off. Maybe do a little auction. You can make a little money off it. And then the other thing, which we speculated on yesterday, is flipping the company, which is what Fairfax has a history of doing this. In fact, Fairfax Financial started when V. Prem Watsa came in and bought Markel Financial, an insurance company from Virginia, that became Fairfax. It was in trouble, and he refurbished it. He's also had some flops. Apparently, Abitibi Bowater was a paper maker that after he bought it got delisted from the stock market. It is not a success story. But he is often compared to Warren Buffett. He's the Warren Buffett of Canada in some people's minds. And last year, according to All Things D, he said, is BlackBerry going to turn around in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months? No. But if you're looking 4 or 5 years, we make investments over 4 or 5 years. So he's on the record as recognizing that BlackBerry could turn around. It's just going to take some time. If you had to guess, do you think that Fairfax Financial is just trying to drive up the stock price of a sale? Are they just going to chop it up and make some quick cash off it? Or do you think they really want to take a few years, build BlackBerry back up so that they can turn it into a much more valuable company and sell it? Ayaz, what do you think?
I think it's a flip. I was looking at Fairfax's holdings and seeing what subsidiaries they had, and a lot of the subsidiaries they have don't seem to be like really ongoing concerns where there would be things like marketing and things. If you're talking about, I guess, Overstock.com, they have 16% of that. They work with a lot of insurance companies. It doesn't seem like something that a company like Fairfax would want to keep going and go into this very competitive space. I mean, BlackBerry is up against Apple, Samsung, and pretty much everybody out there trying to run this. So otherwise, if they don't flip it, I can't foresee why this company would bother to try to keep it going. And flipping it could probably make a lot of money because we've got there's been a lot of cuts when it comes to jobs. And if they can stabilize that stock price a little bit, that way they can make some more money on this in the long run. But there's lots of good IP in BlackBerry still.
Ewan, what do you think? Is this sell for parts, drive up the stock price, or a serious acquisition they want to turn BlackBerry around and make it more valuable?
I don't think it's an ongoing acquisition at all. I mean, the Paul Thurrott's just tweeted out that they've accepted the offer, I believe, which, I mean, accepted the offer is a rumor and signed on the dotted line is two different things. I think the thing that surprises me is the patent value that's in BlackBerry and whether any other companies would be really interested. I've got to say, I thought that Microsoft would be far more interested because if you put Motorola, BlackBerry and Nokia together, they're the father, the son, and the holy moly of cell phone patents. So it would have made a far more sense for Microsoft to come in and buy it than an outsider. If they're going to break it up, really, what is it worth apart from the bricks and mortar? I don't think they're going to get the money back.
Well, and they have signed a letter of intent, but apparently that letter of intent gives BlackBerry 6 weeks to seek other offers. So there's a lot of loopholes in here. I feel like Fairfax probably is not going to sell it for parts. I think they're trying to drive up the price and are willing to take the company over and try to refurbish it and build up the value because either one of those protects their share price. So it's a little bit of a we've got a fallback plan. We're willing to go through with the bluff and go ahead and buy BlackBerry, but let's see if we can flush somebody else out who will pay more. And they've probably got a price in mind. It's probably not $17 a share, but they've probably got a price in mind where they say, okay, well, if it gets to that, we'll call it even and we'll let somebody else buy it.
Do you think we'll see a lot of other suitors pop up out of the woodwork, considering there's this 6 week period where now we know BlackBerry is obviously willing to sell itself? I mean, we already knew the reports about this, but this is a letter of intent. You think that like Microsoft will pop up or Lenovo? Somebody's gonna be like, wait a second, we're gonna lose our chance to get BlackBerry.
No, I don't. I think maybe you might get some other investment firms similar to Fairfax Financial jump in there, but that's about it. Ewan, do you think anybody else would be interested?
I just my problem with the acquisition is I don't see where the breakup value is. I think there's more value in integrating the technology that they currently hold, the research that they've currently got, and the patents that they hold into an existing cell phone provider. Unless you've got a cell phone process that you want to integrate into that, I don't see where the value really does come from it. Then you've got the problem of whether State Department's going to allow it, monopolies and mergers in the UK, or the European Union, because that's an awful lot of power in terms of patent value to go into another cell phone maker.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a quick break and thank our other sponsor for today's show, Gazelle. This episode of Tech News Today brought to you by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your used gadgets. New iPhone is here, as you might have heard. Gazelle.com wants to buy your used iPhone. They figure even if you don't get a new iPhone, you're probably going to get a new phone. And they want to grab as many of those iPhones that you got as possible. And they know that if you do want a new iPhone, it might take a while for it to arrive. They normally guarantee everything for 30 days. You lock in a price, select them for 30 days. But because they know, well, it might take more than 30 days for some of these iPhones to ship right now, for a limited time, Gazelle is allowing you to lock today's pricing for your iPhone and give you until October 31st to send it in. So that's an extra week on top of the normal price lock-in if you go to Gazelle right now and sell your used iPhone. That means you'll have time to get the new iPhone probably before you send them your old one. Gazelle makes it selling any kind of gadget that they take easy. You tell Gazelle the condition. They'll even buy broken iPhones and iPads, get a risk-free offer for your gadgets and free shipping, and then you'll get paid fast by check, by PayPal, or an extra 5% with an Amazon gift card. I've done it. I've made an easy amount of cash using Gazelle. So go check it out today. Go to Gazelle.com now. Get an offer for your iPhone, lock in today's price, and send it in by October 31st. Got some time. Do it now because your iPhone may lose value the longer you wait. Gazelle.com. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. So, Ayaz, I am a teenager in this scenario, and I have yeah, right. Kind of hard to imagine, but try to play along. I have an embarrassing moment in my past. What can the law do to protect me on the internet?
As long as you're a teenager still, by 2015, you'll be able to have these websites remove any content that's up there that you've put up there. So a new law in California is going to require web companies starting in 2015 to remove online activity if a California minor requests it. It doesn't matter what this content is, by the way. It could be embarrassing. It could be some horrible pictures. It doesn't matter what it is. They have to take it down. California already allows certain people, such as victims of crimes, to get information struck from the online record. But it doesn't cover something like this. If an image is copied and posted to another website, so let's say Tom, the teenager's friends like to post things, so let's say I took it and I posted somewhere else, that doesn't get taken down. It's these other companies that have to take care of it. Web companies are not required to scrub their servers clean, so that the data can still be there. They just need to remove the requested item from public viewing. So it's just offline. And there's an additional catch. The law doesn't extend to adults who want to go back and delete material they posted as minors. So if Tom turns 21 and he's like, oh man, I screwed up. When I was 17, I posted those pictures of me with a ponytail. Can't have that removed. And there's also this other... What? Seriously?
Like, oh, Tom, I'm sorry, you're 43. You can't remove anything off the internet. The law will only protect the teens.
That's what it says right now, and this is going to go into effect 2015. There's also one other part of this law that has it's kind of a large effect here. It bars web companies and firms that deal in mobile apps from marketing products that are illegal for minors, such as alcohol, cigarettes, and firearms, if they know or should know a minor's logged in. So, Tom, you seem to have an issue with the idea that an adult couldn't take care of this.
Honestly, I just have an issue with the law getting involved with this, because this should be companies' policies anyway, and they should be across the board, no matter how old you are, that if you have posted something, you should be able to delete it. I don't see why we even need a law, and I don't know why we need a specific law to protect the children. Like, am I alone in this, thinking that anybody who uses a service should expect that they get to remove their own data from that service, and if they don't have that right, they should stop using that service?
Do you have any? Go ahead.
I didn't want to leave Tom hanging. Sorry, I just said no. No, I think the fact of taking away stuff that you posted, 99.9% of companies that you went to and said, I want to delete this post, they delete it anyway. So I think with Tom's right, we don't need a law for that kind of process. That's good corporate practice. If there was an instance that one time in 1986 in the Lebanon, I'd really like that deleted, but I guess it won't be. Then I think that's a shame if you can't get rid of stuff that's clearly associated with you that you don't want people to see. Then you should be able to. I mean, in the UK, the only thing which you cannot delete is your criminal record. Anything else that's held about you is subject to data protection. You can find out whatever anyone else can hold on you, and you can request its deletion if it's inaccurate or if it currently doesn't relate to you.
These kids these days, they got their smartphones taking pictures of all kinds of things, not realizing it's being up there all the time for the rest of the world to see. I'm just thinking about this. I've got a young kid. I know that when he turns like 17, it's like, okay, we got 1 year to make sure we can delete anything we want right now. Because when you turn 18, this won't be allowed. It seems a little bit strange that it cuts off at that point, that they have to be a minor for this to be a deletion of your old record.
I agree. I think anything that you've got of yourself.
Yeah. I suppose I see the other side of this, which is, okay, let's say we just all agree, like, we're not going to use services that don't allow you to remove the data, but then some service becomes really popular with teens, which happens, that adults don't use, and the adults say, you really shouldn't use that, and of course that just makes the teens want to use it more. Then do we need a law that does this? I guess that's the argument here. if there's going to be a law. I mean, this law does not protect the personal data. That's what's hilarious. This is so surface. Like, I can delete a picture, but it's still going to exist on the server. They just can't make it public. And they can, all of the data they collected about me, which is much more valuable than that picture I deleted, gets to stay. Like, I need control over that too. That's where that law should be, is that data that I provide to any company is revocable at any time. That's a law I could get behind for any age.
Well, you do got to bear in mind as well that when you sign up for any of the service providers for social media, you do admit to giving them full control over everything that you post. It's like entering a photo competition. You give the runner of the photo competition the ability to use that photo however they so choose, and most of the time it's just to cover their butts so that you can't then come back to them after they publish it in the winning publication. But it is a binding contract that you hold with them that says you get the benefit of using our service, therefore we get the benefit of anything you post, and it's cast iron.
Let's go across the continent of North America to the other side and see what the New York State is doing to try to protect you. And again, this law targeted at teens, although it's not limited to teens. New York State installing text stops along throughways and state highways. They're essentially just taking existing rest stops and pullovers and putting signs up that say, here is a text stop. If you need to make a text message, pull over here and stop and do it. Trying to take away that idea of like, well, there's nowhere for me to pull over. Okay, it's a cheap way to do this. It's not, maybe not a bad idea. They've got 91 locations there. And they cite that there is a 365% increase in distracted driving tickets issued in the summer of 2013 compared to the same time last year, likely because of enforcement, I guess. There's also another story kicking around about Gwinnett County, that's where Atlanta is in Georgia. Police officer Jesse Myers saying he's issued over 800 tickets this year for texting while driving to people at stop signs and stoplights because he looks and sees if they touch their phone more than 10 times, they're not making a phone call. Phone calls allowed, apparently, but no even using GPS, any web-connected service. So even if you're using navigation, he's going to bust you. He's going to give you a ticket. The quote he said to the local news station, WSB-TV, that's right, you can't use your navigation while driving unless it is a GPS-only device such as Garmin or TomTom, something that is not used as a communication device. So what, if I put my phone in airplane mode, I can use it? Now, I don't want to minimize that this is a problem. For drivers 15 to 19 years old involved in fatal crashes in the United States last year, according to the National Highway Transportation and Safety Administration, 79% of the distracted drivers were not distracted by the use of cell phones, but the rest were, in fatal crashes too. So, okay, there is something to address here. But, Ewan, is this effective? And should we have a guy sitting at a stop sign looking at people using their GPS and busting them? Does that help?
I think Judge Dredd Myers has got it absolutely right. Mine. In the UK, we have a fairly simple law. It's basically you've got to be in control of the motor vehicle, and anything that you do that distracts you from the use of the motor vehicle or succeeds your control of the vehicle is a prosecutable offence. You'll get 3 points on your licence. You're only allowed 12 before your licence is taken away from you, and you'll get a fine on the spot. And it's plain and simple. That includes smoking. It includes using a GPS. It includes anything that could be connotated to be taking your control away from the vehicle. And that's all you need. You don't need to have specific laws, because when you start getting into specific laws, you start getting into specific loopholes. And then you get people come along and say, right, so you can make a phone call, but you can't use a GPS, like Jesse here. And fine, if that's what Jesse's view is, and that's what he's only enforcing the laws in Gwinnett County, but it's a dumb law. It's a really dumb law, and you shouldn't accept dumb laws.
And the text stops, it seems a little bit like that's PR almost. Okay, if you're going to designate an area where you can stop and take a text or work on that, that seems like it's just this constant reminder of, hey, don't do that when you're driving. There are actual designated stops for that.
It's confirmation.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily intrusive so much as just like a reminder. So that, like, looking at the picture at PC Mag, they have a big blue image of one of the big blue signs that says text stop parking area. I know there are a number of times where I wanted to pull over on the side of the road to take a text, but that's just flat out dangerous sometimes. You got to make sure that you have a real place to stop. So this doesn't seem as intrusive to me as a lot of the other ones of when is your device supposed to be used? What's the difference between a GPS and an iPod or something that's in an airplane mode? Like lots of these little loopholes like Ewan had mentioned. Text stops, they don't bother me so much.
I think the use of your cell phone as a GPS device that's giving you directions to a location is illegal, as opposed to a GPS device that sits on the screen and gives you directions. It's mindless. It's utterly mindless.
Honestly, I agree. I think both of these stories are great. I think that, and I pretty much agree with Ayaz, that having these signs up is a low-cost way of kind of raising awareness, and it is PR, but it's a good kind of PR. It says, hey, don't forget, there's a rest stop here, and it's not just for going to the bathroom. If you need to text, there's a place, you know? And a lot of people wouldn't think that, so I think that's great. I actually think that Officer Jesse Myers is doing a public service saying, you know what? Y'all wrote this law this way, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to enforce it the way you wrote it. And maybe that will get people to realize, oh, you know what? This doesn't actually save lives. This is not what we meant with distracted driving. And maybe, just maybe, and I'm probably being an eternal optimist, it makes them recreate the law so that it actually focuses on distracted driving and things that are dangerous, and gets to what Ewan's saying, which is the problem is if you're operating a motor vehicle, you need to be responsible for what you're doing because you can kill people. And that's what should be enforced. So I'm all for Officer Jesse Myers. He's doing the right thing. He's an officer of the law, and they gave him a bad law. But you know what his job is? His job is to enforce that law. So he's doing it. Good man.
Still going to call him Judge Dredd.
I think that's fair. You might not mind. What isn't good is getting this iMessage app for Android. What's going on with this thing?
Yeah, so there's a new Android app called iMessage Chat, and it promises to allow Android users to communicate to people on iMessage. Yeah, well, the app's not from Apple, but it seriously emulates iOS's older style. If you're looking at the video right now, you can see the old blue style of iOS 6 and lower. According to Jay Freeman, also known as Sorik, he found that the app passes data through the app maker's servers in China before it's sent to Apple. Now, developer Adam Bell says the app spoofs chat requests as a Mac Mini. And by the way, when you're actually using this app, you have to sign in with your Apple ID, which could be tied to your iTunes ID, which could be tied to your credit card. So you go ahead and send that data if you want. Okay, how do we get people to not use this app?
Any ideas, Ewan? I mean,
we should think about it slowly and calmly.
I think maybe he's frozen.
What gets me is, like, why is it so compelling that people want to use iMessage, right? I mean, there's WhatsApp, there's Snapchat, there's WeChat, there's Line.
Because it hasn't been done yet. Android is all about making these things happen on your mobile that you might not find on other platforms. And iMessage has been one of those mountains that hasn't been tackled yet. And I think that's probably part of the reason why so many people are testing this out and installing it. And it's like this mixture of, oh my God, it works, that's great, but don't do it. Only use test accounts. But it works, it's amazing. It's like this mixture of both, because it's been this almost impossible thing to crack. Somebody's cracked it, but they could likely be stealing your data in the process.
That's exactly how I felt this morning. I was like, oh, there's a thing. Wait a second. Bad idea.
Exactly.
I could do
it.
It's the because you can kind of mentality, but I wonder but is this like BBM, or that's going to be on iOS and Android? Do we just want more cross-platform stuff, or do we just really do people want Apple's silly looking gummy things?
There's no denying the fact that iMessage is a pretty darn popular platform, and there are a lot of people using it. So even if you're on Android and you have your own...
Is it though? Wait a minute. I use iMessage because it's built into my iPhone.
Right.
And it's my text messaging app. I don't use iMessage because I want to iMessage people.
But it's what you use.
What's the attraction to being like, well, I can already text message them. Why do I need to have the iMessage app? I mean, yes, I know there could be people on iPads or iPod Touches that have iMessage, and that's the only way to get to them. But that's such a small number of people.
Yeah.
Like what I want is that cross-platform that you just alluded to, where it doesn't matter what app they're on. I think this is just halo effect of like, ooh, it's cool, it's Apple, and Apple on my Android. It's like, well, if you really care about Apple that much, just get an Apple then. Well, you can already text message people.
Not to mention, a lot of people on the Apple platform are going to be fine with the built-in service that's just there, not researching WhatsApp or going to these other services. So they're going to use a lot of that. If you're an Android user and all of your friends are on iPhone and they're all using iMessage, of course you want to tap into that, because that's how you access
send them a text message.
But the other thing is
that's how you tap into that.
iMessage doesn't work. That's the other thing. You don't get messages exactly at the same time. So the idea that there's now more users potentially, the system already doesn't work.
Okay. And
because iMessage is broken, that means people on Android want iMessage.
People on Android don't know. That's the thing. I'm on Android. I've never used used iOS. I don't know. All I know is that iMessage is this thing that you don't have access to.
We communicate on iMessage all the time, Jason. You just didn't know it because it's called text messaging.
Well, there you go.
Ewan, do you care about this?
I think the first thing to think is the fact that the company that's done this, there's no suggestion that they're doing anything wrong yet. I'm just very surprised that Apple's allowed it, and Apple needs to write the application that does this and get rid of everything else that doesn't. So it would be nice if Android users could talk to me free through iMessage. I agree. I think it's superb, but the mechanism of doing that got to be controlled.
And messaging doesn't have a history of unification, right? We still don't have one instant messaging platform on the desktop.
What was the one with the duck?
Well, Adium?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, but all that did was take the multiple accounts and put them in one interface, which is the best we can hope for, I guess. Maybe somebody should do that.
Yeah, let's just stick to email for now.
Yeah. Well, it is time now for a randomizer. We conducted a straw poll with our live audience today, and here's what they said. 19% of them wanted to hear us talk about Minecraft game adding an ordnance survey to Great Britain's terrain data to the game to create a mini Great Britain, which, thought would be perfectly appropriate with Ewan on the show today. But 81% of you preferred to talk about GTA 5 bug that Rockstar is warning people not to park their cars in garages in the game because the bug may not allow you back into the car. So in other words, the game that glorifies the stealing of cars says, you know what, the garages aren't safe. Don't park your car in there because the game will steal it and then your car will be gone.
Retribution.
It's a bug that usually apparently works when you are playing a different car than the default car for your character, apparently.
Honestly, I think they're doing you a favor because you probably stole the car anyways. You want to hide it in the garage so that nobody, kind of clues into the fact that you stole it and you go to jail and go to Grand Theft Auto.
I just love the quote. It's like, again, from the support forums, unfortunately, we do not currently have a workaround to recover a car if it is missing. It's like, you're the game developer. Shouldn't you kind of know what happens if it's pixels are being stolen? Just put them back.
Who's stealing the cars in GTA? Well, every player is stealing a car, but who's stealing the stolen car? This becomes meta.
Who steals the stolen cars?
It's a novel. That's a film.
Yeah, actually.
You should write it, Tom.
I ain't got time.
Books.
Merit Books, that's of course. Let's see what's on the calendar, Sarah. There's no Sarah today. She still hasn't got her internet back. So I don't know. I'll do it here. Surface 2 and Surface Pro 2 now available for pre-order right now. Those looking for the new power cover, the docking station, Surface Music Kit, well, you're going to have to wait. Microsoft doesn't expect those to ship until next year at yet to be announced prices. That's just the new power cover, the docking station, and the Surface Music Kit. I think you can still get the type pad cover and all that sort of thing. Not see one coming.
Incoming message.
It's a message from Gavin who says, "Morning TNT crew. On the pricing of the Tesco huddle you reported on yesterday, Tesco runs a club card loyalty point system. Whenever you buy in Tesco, you earn points, and points are converted to cash to spend in store. On certain products, the points count double, effectively halving the cost, and Tesco has confirmed that the huddle will be one of these products. So the price most people will actually pay is around £60. Convert to US dollars and remove the VAT of the value-added tax for a better like-for-like comparison, and you're looking at about $80. At this price point, I think these are going to fly off the shelves over the Christmas holidays. As ever, thanks for the great show, and doubly, man, thanks for the international reporting."
Hey, thanks, Gavin. That's an interesting way of looking at it. It is a lot of thinking for people to do, but I mean, Ewan, you probably have walked into a Tesco before. Do you think people will think of it that way?
Well, we upset Tesco because we leaked the stats on the tablet last week before they were out because we've got a contact.
Oops.
No, they sent us a promotional advert afterwards. They're okay with it, I think. This thing, I would like to say some good things about this thing because they've really thought about the spec. They've really thought about the price. The integration with Blinkbox. Blinkbox Books is another service that they haven't yet really kind of tapped into that's coming. They're really aiming at the Kindle here with this, and also with the price. They're killing the Kindle on price because the Kindle's $159 down to $129 in the UK. So to hit £99 below maybe even 60 if you've got the credit, as Gavin says, is really, really good. And the Blinkbot Music as well is going to be very much like a Spotify thing that's going to be associated with your club card. And there's Club Card TV as well, which is a free TV service as long as you're a club card holder. So there is an awful lot of an aggressive strategy about this from Tesco. And they've, from the contact that we've got, they've sunk a lot of resources into this. They're very excited about it. And I think it could well be a game changer come Christmas.
So that sounds like that loyalty points thing is something people think about. That's fairly common. It's like
it's huge.
Canadian.
I mean, if you get a
Tire
Tesco, credit card over here, which they do, they've got their own bank, so they've got a Tesco credit card. You can get up to 4 times the amount off, so you can end up paying 1/4 on some products. You get vouchers come the end of the period. So it's not just the club card; it's the Tesco Visa as well as that can make the difference. They're a good company over here as far as trying to give back to the customer. How they give back to the customer and what they do in the supply chain to get to that, I'm not going to get into comment, but they're thinking clearly here, and they've thought long and hard of it. And people are going to poo-poo this because it's just an attack on Amazon. I think it's far more than that. And if you look at Huddle, people are saying this tablet's called Huddle. Huddle is going to be a brand. Huddle will be a brand of products that will come out over the next 12 months that will possibly completely change the UK for electronic products. They've got their own Tesco mobile system as well, so you could see cell phones starting to creep out. They might even buy Blackberry. Who knows?
Do you have any hint who's actually manufacturing this for Tesco?
No, we didn't even know the name of the processor when we got the leaked specs. It's a partner in China, unquote. That's all I know.
All right. That's all I saw too. Well, that brings us to the end of Tech News today, but the tech never stops, and there's more than anyone could ever cover, and thank goodness the British Tech Network exists at BritishTechNetwork.com. It's a great place to be. I'm going to be on the big show this Thursday, actually. What else is going on, Ewan?
We've got a lot going on at the moment. We've got the Mac show, the big show, the photo show, the VIP show, the gamer show, the iOS show, the media show. They're all in there. They're all just what they say on the tin. Fair enough. The VIP show's a new one. It's the outtakes of the pre-roll and post-roll. So be careful what you say because
oh no,
it's unedited. What we've also got is the comic show.
There.
Yeah, the comic show's great. It's headed up by a guy called Andrew Stevens, who used to draw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and a guy called Paul Kirkle, who used to work in that as well. Jeff Gammett's on it, and Kelly Gamont's on it as well. But we've actually got Carlos Esquerra on in a few weeks, who's the creator of Judge Dredd. So that's a really exciting episode. Really looking forward to listening to that.
That's
myself.
why Judge Dredd's on your mind. I get it now.
Exactly.
And tell Paul Kirkle to say hello. By the way.
Paul Kirkle, yeah, he'll be there. So have a listen. Have a try the podcast if you like them. They're all in iTunes. They're all on the website. You can download them as much as you like. BritishTechNetwork.com. And don't forget, if you'd like to suggest stories for this show, there's a little scuffle in Google Plus after the Rafe Needleman show the other day that we didn't cover the cyanogen mod story. And every once in a while, there's going to be a story like that where a lot of people think it's important and it just doesn't make the cut. This is one of the ways you can help tell us this is really important to us. Go to technewstoday.reddit.com and vote on the stories or submit stories yourself and let us know what you think is important. You can find us on the web at twit.tv/TNT. You can email us. Our email address is tnt@twit.tv, and you can give us a call. Leave us a voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW. Rachel Metz from Technology Review joins us tomorrow. We'll see you then.